Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, the officials of the ANC Youth League led by President General Colin Malachi, Deputy President Phumzile Mgcina, the Secretary General Mthoxolo Ngudle, and the Treasurer General Zwelo Masilela. Welcome to the press briefing of the ANC Youth League for Economic Freedom National March. The statement of the ANC Youth League with regard to that march is going to be done by the Secretary General, Comrade Mthoxolo Ngudle. Without any further waste of time, we are going to welcome the Secretary General, but mindful of the fact that we will in the process be joined by members of the Progressive Youth Alliance. Over to you, SG.
No, thank you very much, Spokes. Greetings, President Malachi, national officials, the members of the media, members of the Progressive Youth Alliance that are going to be joining us for the presser. No, thank you very much, Spokes. The presser for today, comrades, it's not going to be as usual. Comrades and friends, radicals and revolutionaries, fellow South Africans and South African youth, fraternal structures of our movement, we are here today to give a statement on the Economic Freedom March of the ANC Youth League. Today we are gathered not in an ordinary press briefing, but demand radical change in our country. Our country's economy is one that is marred by slow growth, high levels of youth unemployment, poverty and inequalities. This has direct economic exclusion, crime, gender-based violence, and all forms of social ills affecting blacks in general and Africans in particular in our country. We are calling for all South Africans that we want South Africa that works for the people. A South Africa where economic freedom, safety and empowerment are not a privilege of the few, but rights for all. The African National Congress Youth League stands on the front line in defense of our revolution, our future, and the future of many generations that will come after us. We stand in the shoulders of giants of the generation of 1944, of Anton Libede, A.P. Mda, Mxolisi Madzombozi, Nelson Mandela, Robert Rasha, Godfrey Pitje, O.R. Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, and many more of the generation of freedom in their lifetime. Like Frantz Fanon would have said, each generation out of relative obscurity must identify its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. As the ANC Youth League generation of economic freedom and social change now, not later, we have dared never to dishonor the cause of economic freedom. As such, tomorrow we will be on the streets demonstrating to our government and the private sector alike that they must take full responsibility of the lack of massive gross fixed capital investment in our country and the absence of state-led economic stimulus program that industrializes the South African economy to create jobs. We refuse to sit back and watch. We cannot sit back and watch when the South African economy remains concentrated in the hands of the small elite, disconnected from the struggles of ordinary South Africans. The youth refuses to be perpetual bystanders in an economy designed to create poverty of the many, blacks in general, and riches of the few, the white South Africans in particular. We cannot sit back and do nothing when the majority of our youth are loitering in the streets due to youth unemployment and underdevelopment. With legal access to sustainable and quality jobs, the structural unemployment crisis is now at staggering 33.5%. Of that, 64% is young people. This, we argue, is a ticking time bomb. Failure to address this, it will be the betrayal to our youth, the young people of this country. We cannot sit back and watch as the scourge of drugs, gangsterism, and crime robs young people of their potential. We demand comprehensive state intervention to rehabilitate communities, break the chains of addiction, and offer pathways to dignity and meaningful employment. The private sector must also take responsibility of this societal disenfranchisement and communities that are disintegrated and youth that is despondent. The legacy of the 2011 Economic Freedom March, 13 years ago in 2011, the ANC Youth League led a historic march of economic freedom, presenting a memorandum that included the following demands: expropriation without compensation. The Youth League there called for the distribution of land to address historic injustices and empower our people. The Youth League further called for free education for all. It demanded access to quality free education to ensure that young people are not denied of their future and that financial barriers are removed. The Youth League fought against and for banning of labor brokers. It highlighted the exploitative practices of labor brokers, demanded they be banned to protect the right of workers. Nationalization of key sectors of the economy. The Youth League led a historic march to demand state ownership of critical industries to ensure they benefit majority of our people and not just private interests. Aggressive foreign policy for trade. The Youth League pushed for foreign policy that prioritizes South African trade interests and builds partnerships that advance economic growth. Refinement of state tender process. The Youth League demanded for the refinement of state tender process. It demanded for a transparent, fair, and state tender process to eliminate corruption and ensure opportunities for young entrepreneurs. Housing for all. The Youth League argued that the government must address the housing crisis and provide safe, affordable homes for all South Africans. 13 years have passed, yet these demands have gone largely unanswered. The promises made to the ANC Youth League in 2011 have not been met and have not materialized. People continue to suffer due to lack of action. We demand that the government and private sector fulfill these commitments to economic justice and social upliftment, or we are left with no choice but to escalate the actions. When we say we are going to escalate the actions, both government and the private sector will see the Youth League and the youth of this country leading marches against this exploitative environment. Tackling the fight on the financial sector. Tomorrow, October 2024, the ANC Youth League march on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. This is more than just a symbolic gesture. It is a direct confrontation with the financial heart of our economy. that has systemically excluded the youth. The JSE represents a concentration of wealth in the hands of conglomerate giants, while small businesses and the youth remain in the margins of the South African economy. Call for closure of the JSE for 13 years, the JSE has ignored the memorandum demanding meaningful transformation and inclusion. The time for patience has now passed. And this is a warning to the JSE that the time for the South African youth patience has now passed. Economic justice through industrialization and reindustrialization. The Youth League demands immediate action to correct the structural deficiencies in our economy. We move beyond the extraction of economic resources, which is must move beyond the extraction of mineral resources from pit to pot to value addition of our minerals in the South African economy. The Youth League is calling for export quotas, for 70% of export quotas for all our raw minerals to be retained within our borders, processed and beneficiated locally to create jobs in order for us to ensure that we create industries. This is a non-negotiable. It is a key unlocking instrument for long-term economic growth and performance of the South African economy. The Youth League also moves to reject the selling of our state-owned assets or privatization of SOEs. We cannot sit back and watch when our state-owned enterprises, the cornerstone of our developmental state, are privatized and auctioned off. The privatization of freight rail, passenger services, our ports is a betrayal to the working class, and it will shoot up the high cost of living crisis and the cost of doing business in South Africa. These are strategic assets that must be leveraged from for economic growth, for industrialization, for job creation in this country, rather than they be put in the private hands only for profit making. We demand state-led industrialization using SOEs as drivers of economic activity and investment, that the state must be the first instrument that leads investment in the productive sectors of the economy, crowding in the private sector. Accelerating job creation through skills development and economic participation. We cannot sit back and watch on the potential of South African youth that is squandered. We demand comprehensive skills revolution, a state-led initiative that equips young people with skills that are needed for the economy, skills like digital skills, which is the AI, robotics, green industries, and the future of work opportunities. The government employees pension fund must be mobilized to invest in the youth reskilling programs, providing young people of this country opportunities for them to be reskilled and upskilled in order for their skills to be pertinent to the skills for the South African economy, or broadly, the continental economy. These investments are not charity. They are investments that are ensuring that the workforce of this country, young people of this country, have the necessary skills in order to contribute in our country's development and to contribute in our country's economy. Addressing the high cost of living crisis, I think the matter we've raised is that we cannot sit back when we see that part of what is going to contribute to the high cost of living crisis is privatization of the network industries, privatization of freight rail, passenger rail, privatization of water and sanitation services. And we take a dim view even on the already rolled out program of privatization of digital infrastructure. It should have been another source of revenue for the government. What we mean here is that digital infrastructure, you should be inviting private operators to be running over the digital infrastructure that is owned by the state in order that data become part of the administered prices within the South African economy. But as it is, both the infrastructure and operators are private. And therefore, the state cannot really control the cost of data. The rising cost of living has left millions of young people in South Africa unable to afford basic necessities such as food, housing, and transport. The state must intervene decisively to regulate prices, especially on electricity, foods, and ensure that young South Africans do not go hungry. Our government has proven that it has risen to the occasion when needed. The recent successes such as recent reduction of load shedding, the revival that is happening on the logistic networks, the stabilization of the South African Airways. We are calling for injection of more capital on Denel and other critical state-owned enterprises that must lead development in South Africa. The political will must first be coming from those who stand to benefit for this kind of a redistributive economy, which is the young people and the motive forces of our revolution. It must be noted that the ANCYL League on local government, on government of local unit, we just listened now into one of the small political parties here in South Africa, which are having a big microphone. That the ANCYL League, we support a ANC-led Ekurhuleni. We know that they are fly-by-night sleepers, people who are working for, as though they are agents of these small political parties. We have promised Julius Malema of the EFF Ekurhuleni. We want it to be known that while we support efforts to ensure government of national unity at a national level, government of provincial unity, government of local unity, that we're not going to be told by small political parties what we must do in government of local unity. As the Youth League will oppose any efforts to try and give criminals our own governments when we are trying to stabilize the South African economy and grow it in order that it works for our people. As we conclude, the time for economic freedom is now. The ANCYL League will not rest until there is economic justice is realized. Will not sit back and watch the future of South Africa auctioned off to the highest bidder. While the youth remains on the sidelines of the economy, we demand bold action, radical reforms in our economy, and redistribution of wealth and income to South African youth. The wealth of this country is currently in the hands of you South Africans who are white in the main. We will not sit back and watch. Mandla.
Thank you very much, Comrade SG. That is the statement that are demands of the ANC Youth League ahead of tomorrow's national mass action. Now we'll invite media to forward their questions with regard to that which the SG just read. we'll take the first round and hope that there is in the second. You are noted as the first hand. Yeah, you come across as the only person for now. Yes, you can shoot.
Good afternoon. Shannon Merrick from Cassis Broadcasting Africa. All protocol observed. I think because there isn't enough, I'll come back for a second round. My first question to the ANC youth league, they were saying, they say a slogan, Raw Young Lions Raw. Now the statement says, in 2011, the ANC marched to the capital of corruption, the JSE. Your statement says they've not done anything, they've not listened to you, they blue-ticked you, your own statement. Now you're going back in 2024 to the same house of corruption, the JSE. How many warning shots are you going to give them? One. Two, why I say the JSE is the house of corruption, there's 150 companies there. Steinhoff being the biggest criminals of government, pension workers, blacks and whites money that is gone. So who are you going to? Because you are going to the house of the criminals, the people that stole poor people's money, the systems that the JSE created Steinhoff, the financial structure, the consultants, and now with the two-port system, the JSE you're going to as well as the ANC youth league. Maybe you can give me your opinion on that. The two-port system is supposed to help poor people, but JSE white consultants are going to get more money than Magogo claiming her money from the city she's worked 30 years in consultancy fees and in tax. What are you doing to help those poor and vulnerable people? Last but not least, is this your last warning shot for 2035? Will there be another warning shot? Or are we expecting an Arab Spring? As your statement said, it's your last warning, I think. Thank you.
Okay, officials have noted that. Okay, in the absence of none, I'm going to invite officials from President to respond to the questions.
Thank you very much for coming. As we announce our massive march tomorrow. One is that we have acknowledged in our statement that capital in South Africa has not been disciplined for years. They've been operating like a free-for-all. They have not been fearing anybody. And we're saying that those days are gone. As this generation, we're not a generation of apologetic leaders. As the statement says, that is the last shot. We're going to the march, to the JSE, to inform capital that if they don't respond to our demands, they will have no place to operate here in South Africa. You go to our townships, you go everywhere else. Every day it's a holiday in our townships. The youth are on the streets, unemployed, displaced, on drugs, while we have listed companies on the JSE holding on to their money, investing it in countries where they don't benefit from while they take from us. We know that a lot of those companies that are there listed on the JSE, some of them benefit from the PIC money. And those are pensioners' monies, monies of our parents, our grandparents, and everyone else. Those resources must benefit the majority of South Africans because they're the biggest contributors on the economy because the money is taken from them. Now, if they've made deals with their friends, they must know that this generation is a generation that does not negotiate with the future of this country. And we're going there 13 years later because it is the Youth League again that went there. We know that there's Mickey Mouse organizations that want to claim that the economic freedom is their agenda. It's an agenda set by the Youth League of the African National Congress. Because we've always been fearless young people who always put the interest of South African first and the youth of this country first. Now, the corruption of JSE, we're aware of it. It's part of the reasons we're going to march there because in South Africa, anything that is white, it is not corrupt, even if they steal from the poor. Anything that is black is corrupt. Now, we're telling South Africans that the biggest corruption heist is in the private sector. Those are the people that steal from the poor of the poorest every day and invest monies outside this country. Now, it is clear that when they speak about a corrupt male. They don't even print their photos on the media. But when they speak about a corrupt black, they put them all over the media with their faces everywhere. We've been watching them. The biggest corruption heist. No one speaks about it. But if it was a corruption done by a black person in government, it will be all over the media. Now, what telling South Africans that enough is enough? We need to join hands with everyone to resolve the problems of the private sector. On the Ekurhuleni matter, we know that part of the reasons why Mahormeja corruption capital was at, under the EFF leadership there, Mahormeja used to loot everything to a point where he even put bullets on his own private cars. We're aware. We're aware that the bad audit that has happened in Ekurhuleni is under the MMC of Finance of Ekurhuleni, under the Mahormeja leadership, because if anyone wants to do business in Ekurhuleni under that leadership, they have to go and meet Mahormeja to demand. He demands 10% from everybody else. We know it's corruption. Now, we're not going to agree, because we're cleaning up Ekurhuleni. The ACE is cleaning up Ekurhuleni. We're not going to agree that the corruption continues and the poor of the poorest are stolen from Ekurhuleni by Mahormeja and his friends. He has a history of collapsing governments. In Tshwane, would have loved the ANC to take mayorship there, because the DA tried since 2016, they've collapsed that municipality. We don't believe that the Action SA will do any better. But if the leadership in that area feel that, but what's saying that the capital city can be an area of people who are practicing how to be leaders. It is only the ANC that can be able to do that. We don't believe that is a good decision to give the metro to Action SA, not the African National Congress. We still stand by our position as the Youth League that it's the ANC that must take mayorship in that metro and fix it and take it back to what it used to be. It's one that is glorious, which is a capital city, where townships are serviced, where there's water in Mamelodi. We know of the corruption of Mamelodi of water tankers, where water is closed on purpose, so that corrupt criminals can continue to sell water or give water to our people through tankers when they've got an infrastructure to supply them water. Now, I don't know if the mayor of Action SA will be able to do that, but let's give them a benefit of the doubt. But we still believe it's the African National Congress that can govern better in any municipality here. South Africans have learned that not voting for the ANC is a very dangerous mistake, because there is no any other political party that can govern better than the African National Congress. Thank you.
Officials, it looks like the president has covered the question. Are there any other last questions before we wrap up the press conference? No, it appears that the President and the Secretary General have done justice to the response and the release. Let's take this opportunity to thank everyone from all media houses that availed their time to come here. Thank the officials on behalf of young people in this country, the Secretary General of South African Student Congress. The press conference stands adjourned. Thank you very much. Whose phone is this? It's yours.